I'd like to share a tracking story from several years back. I shot my buck the last day of season, and that should be the end of the story, but then it took an interesting twist. Here's his track going into where he bedded down. I kind of suspected he was cutting country pretty fast, pretty straight lined, and then he decided to cut into some thick stuff, which was pretty characteristic of them going to bed up. They usually go through some thick stuff to, I think they kind of do that to warn themselves any impending danger coming. They can hear the brush cracking and so forth. You see, he went through some pretty nasty stuff here. And typical too, he kind of moved uphill to bed. There's his tracks going in, and there's his bed. You'll notice you can see the tarsal stain from his hind legs. That'll tell you it's a buck. Fun hunt. From here, he heard me coming and he jumped up and he circled around this way. And went around, and he was standing up in that area up in there when I caught him. He wasn't that far, 60 yards, and he's laying just off over on this side over here. I shot this buck the last day of season. I tracked him. I cut fairly fresh tracks in the snow, and being the last day, I wasn't too fussy about how big he was. So I took it, and the snow was coming down pretty hard, so I pushed the track real hard. I figured either that or I was going to lose the track in the snow. And I came up on him and I bumped him out of his bed, and he did a half a circle and stopped and waited just a little too long to see what was behind him. The first shot hit a branch. Second shot did the job. One thing that was interesting is I could smell him. I knew he was bedded. I see he headed into some thick stuff, and I could smell him then. And I thought, he's got to be right here. So it's kind of neat when you can actually smell them like that. But not a trophy is in the scoring, but a trophy in my eyes because I did it tracking. It's quite rewarding. It's interesting. It's tough. There's days you want to pull your hair out. In the end, though, you just got to keep trying, and it can pay off. The story should have ended there, but about a month later, when I was back at home, I was going over my pictures and videos from the trip, and I made an interesting discovery. I actually passed that buck twice earlier that trip. Here's a map of the area where I shot the buck. I saw this buck twice before I shot him earlier in the season. And I'll give you a rundown on the map here of exactly what happened. Starting off, this is where I first picked up his track that day. And I ran his track back to about somewhere in here, and I shot him in this area here. Now, 2 days earlier, I picked up a track back in this area over here, and I caught up to that deer right in here. And I got video footage, and you'll see that video footage of that deer. And I decided not to shoot him because he was a smaller buck and I still had a few days of season left, so I didn't shoot him. And lo and behold, I discovered that, I guess I remembered that earlier on in the season, I was just sitting. I had dropped in off of this road and I had dropped back into this point back in here, and I was sitting on the ground. And I had a deer come in from behind me here, and he came right up behind me there, and I turned around and I'm looking at him, and I seen that it was a 8-point buck, but he had a split brow tine on the right side, and I let him go. He was a small buck, and it was the first week of season, and I let him go. So, and I had forgotten that, I guess, until later on when this all came back. It was like, hey, I actually saw that buck here the first week of season. I saw him here and let him go with 2 days left to go in the season. And then I picked him up here, and I ended up shooting him here the last day of season. Now, just to give you an idea, I put this on my Onyx maps, and I drew a line from here to this point over here, and it measured out 1.65 miles. And then I checked from this point here to here, and it was just about 3/4 of a mile. And from this point here to this point here was 9/10 of a mile, or close to a mile, somewhere in there. So it's interesting to see just how far that buck had been traveling around that area. It kind of gives you a little bit of an idea how much these bucks travel during the rut. Oh. I wanted to share this hunt with you guys because not only was it an example of a successful tracking hunt, but it also gave us a glimpse into the world of buck movement in the big woods. Thanks for watching, and go stop it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check us out on Facebook on Misty River Trackers Base Camp. Bye.